December 20th, 1968. A young couple on their first date drove to Lake Herman Road in California for privacy. Inside the car were 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and 17-year-old David Faraday, unaware they were being watched. As they parked, a mysterious vehicle pulled up. A man ordered them out, and when they hesitated, a gunshot shattered the silence, striking the car's rear wheel. Terrified, they complied, but the killer wasn't done. David was shot in the head at point-blank range, and Betty, hit by 5 successive shots, tried to run. Within moments, the murderer vanished into the darkness, leaving behind 2 lifeless bodies and igniting one of America's most notorious unsolved mysteries. And that was just the beginning. Over the years, he terrorized more victims, taunted the police with cryptic letters, and managed to disappear without a trace. Who was the Zodiac Killer? Why did he choose these victims? And how did he vanish so completely? This is the greatest mystery of the Zodiac Killer. It was the 4th of July, 1969, a night of celebration, fireworks, and freedom. But for 18-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 16-year-old Michael Mageau, it became a night of horror. The young couple had driven to Blue Rock Springs Park, unaware that they were being followed. A mysterious car trailed them, making them uneasy. In an attempt to shake off the unwanted follower, they pulled into the parking lot. At first, it seemed like they had lost him. The car that had been tailing them drove past, disappearing into the night. But then, minutes later, it returned. The driver parked behind them, blocking their exit. A shadowy figure stepped out, holding a blinding flashlight. Was it a cop? A concerned citizen? Before they could react, gunshots shattered the night. The attacker fired multiple rounds before calmly walking back to his car and vanishing into the darkness. Darlene died at the scene. Michael, though severely wounded, miraculously survived. The Zodiac Killer had officially announced himself to the world. August 1st, 1969. 3 major newspapers, the San Francisco Examiner, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, received nearly identical letters. Each letter began the same way. "This is the Zodiac speaking." He took credit for the murders, listing details only the real killer would know, like the number of shots fired and the exact clothing worn by the victims. But the real shocker? Each letter contained a cryptic cipher, an encoded message made up of strange symbols. Zodiac demanded that the newspapers publish the ciphers on their front pages. If they didn't, he threatened to kill again. Police scrambled to crack the code, but they weren't fast enough, because the next day, a couple, just ordinary citizens, deciphered the message. What it revealed was horrifying. Killing people is so much fun. It is more fun than hunting wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. And then, an eerie promise. "When I die, I will be reborn, and those I have killed will be my slaves in the afterlife." The Zodiac wasn't just a killer. He saw himself as something more, a master of death, choosing victims to serve him beyond the grave. For weeks, the city lived in fear. Then, on September 27th, 1969, Zodiac struck again, but this time, it was broad daylight. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a peaceful afternoon at Lake Berryessa when a man approached them. He wore a black hood over his head. A strange symbol, a white cross with a circle, was stitched onto his chest, and in his hand, a gun. He told them he was an escaped prisoner and only needed money and their car to flee to Mexico, but he was lying. After tying them up, he pulled out a knife and began stabbing them again and again. Brian was stabbed 6 times, Cecilia 10. Then, before leaving, Zodiac walked over to their car and left a chilling signature, his symbol, the date, and the words, "by knife." Cecilia died from her wounds. Brian survived, but Zodiac wasn't finished yet. Until now, Zodiac had targeted couples in remote areas, but on October 11th, 1969, he did something different. Paul Stein, a San Francisco cab driver, picked up a passenger in the city. He was supposed to take him to Washington and Maple Street, but when they arrived, the passenger pulled out a gun and shot Stein in the head. Zodiac calmly wiped the cab clean of fingerprints, tore off a piece of Stein's bloody shirt, and vanished into the night. This time there were witnesses, 3 teenagers, watching from a nearby house. They saw the killer, and when they described him, a composite sketch was created. For the first time, Zodiac had a face, but fate played a cruel trick that night. 2 police officers actually stopped a man matching the description just blocks away, but due to a miscommunication, they were told to look for a black suspect. So when they saw a white man, they let him go. They had just let the Zodiac walk away. After Paul Stein's murder, Zodiac sent another letter. This time, he included a piece of Stein's blood-stained shirt, proof that he was the killer. Then, he made a new, terrifying threat. He would attack a school bus and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. Panic spread across the city. Police escorted haunted school buses. Parents lived in constant fear, but the attack never happened. Over the next few years, Zodiac continued sending letters, some mocking the police, others containing new ciphers. Then, in 1974, the letters stopped. Had he been arrested? Had he died? Or was he simply watching from the shadows, enjoying the chaos he had created? For decades, his true identity remained a mystery. And then, something shocking happened. In 2020, a group of amateur codebreakers finally cracked one of his remaining ciphers. After 51 years, Zodiac's message was revealed. It didn't contain his name, it didn't reveal his identity, but it did include one final taunt. That wasn't me on the TV show. Even in the end, he wanted the last word. Dozens of suspects have been investigated. Some had compelling evidence against them. Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester, was the most infamous suspect. He owned a Zodiac brand watch, had military training, and was even identified by a survivor. But his handwriting and fingerprints didn't match, and in 1992, he died, uncharged. To this day, the Zodiac Killer remains unidentified, and maybe that's exactly what he wanted. Creating videos like this takes a huge amount of time, effort, and research. If you want to see more deep dives into the world's most chilling mysteries, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Your support helps keep these stories alive.